Sergeant Kim and Ha Jun-ho, the #1 Doomfist and Tracers among Korean streamers, started duo queuing at the start of the new patch, resulting in a 7-game win streak, completely annihilating GM players. In my personal opinion, there isn't a single player in the world, even amongst pro gamers, who can play Doomfist better than Sergeant Kim right now in a competitive setting. At least in Korea, he's deemed as one of the greatest Doomfists to ever touch the game. He's virtually perfect in every way, including aim, skill shots, game sense, and reaction speed. So today, we'll be learning and analyzing how to play the buff Doomfist from the POV of the #1 Doomfist player in the world. For control and push maps, Doomfist is extremely fast in capturing frontline space before the enemy tank. Take special attention to his positioning in the next 10 seconds of the clip. He hasn't made any special plays, but do you notice something different about his playstyle? He just slams, then runs away, slams, then punches away again. In early fights and team fights where he doesn't have ult, Sergeant refuses to dive in deep and commit first. He takes position around his support and DPS and tries to open up space from there. One of the basic mindsets of top 500 tank players is to make space by taking control of the front line, but you can see Sergeant actually abandons this traditional main tank mindset. Instead, he plays reactively by responding to enemies that try to take control of open space. He doesn't commit to fights unless he has justification to do so, like having a charged punch while a key enemy ability is on cooldown, or an anti-nade on the enemies along with your team's tracer calling for a dive. Sergeant looks for an opportunity to catch the enemy backline off guard. As Kiriko Suzu gets used as response to the anti-nade, Sergeant Kim immediately engages onto the enemy team to capitalize on the situation. He does commit a little too deep, but it was worth a shot trying to land the charged punch. The bottom line here is that it can be detrimental for Doomfist to engage and commit to fights just for the sake of trying to make plays. It's important not to be so focused on controlling the front line as a Doomfist. Sergeant immediately responds to the diving Winston and punishes him. Compared to other tanks of the game, Doomfist doesn't want to be the initiator of teamfights in a full 5v5 scenario. But with the enemy tank down and an ultimate in his pocket, he dives in to chase down targets and secure follow-up kills. He successfully completes his mission and retreats back in the direction of his team. Sergeant Kim goes back in a little too deep without ult, causing him to be focused down in an instant. This is an example of why you don't want to overcommit as Doomfist. But guess who the Tracer is? It's Ha Jun-ho who equalizes the fight by killing the enemy Winston, buying enough time for Doomfist to get back to the team. Sergeant zooms back onto point and gets nanoed. His team trades the nano for an enemy sound barrier, which is amazing value, removing the only defensive ultimate from the enemy team. At the same time, Ha Jun-ho takes a position that allows him to follow up with Doomfist and catch flanks. Sergeant power blocks for a charged punch to take the attention from the front line and barely makes it out alive with his shift ability. Sergeant punches in but is countered by an enemy Suzu. Holding a frontline position is great for charging up the fist, but this also makes you prone to CC and being focused down. When you want to charge your fist, bait the enemy into focusing you from the front line. Sergeant gets a pick and attempts to equalize using Meteor Strike, but the enemy Winston is juggling the backline, making it impossible for Sergeant to survive. The Honor Sleep and Anti are up on the enemy team, so it would be dangerous to commit to the fight early. The strategy is to quickly punch in and block for an empowered fist, then escaping back to cover for a chance to engage, but a play like this requires plenty of healing from your team, so it's important to coordinate with your supports when attempting this, or play at least with a skilled support player that can keep you alive. The team initiates with the Nano Doom, which gets slept, but also gets negated by a reactive cleanse from Kiriko. Doom takes on lots of aggro when engaging into the enemy team, making it much easier for the Tracer to play around with. In reverse, if the enemy team tries to focus the Tracer, it makes it much easier for the Doom to make plays. As a main tank player myself, it's shocking to me how Sergeant is able to play without fall into the trap of just face tanking and holding front line. By the way, if you'd like to find out more on Doomfist tips and tricks as well as advanced Doomfist techs, make sure to check out Sergeant Kim's channel. It's fine to dump your cooldowns onto high ground like this as long as you end up in a position that allows you to quickly drop back down for cover. This is possible when your team is able to contest the enemy team from range, making it difficult for them to chase down the Doomfist without being punished. It can be difficult for Doomfist to have high impact during neutral fights like this while Ana Sleep is still available, especially on Illios Lighthouse where teams play to hold high ground positions, requiring you to disengage frequently. A useful tip when playing against Sojourn is to charge up Power Block on her E. It's literally a free charged punch handed to you with no risk. Sergeant tries a quick engage, but it's too dangerous to commit with the enemy team having a positional advantage. The enemy Winston overcommits, so Sergeant immediately chases down the escaping Winston for a free kill. Even the slightest mistake from the enemy tank like this can be a free opportunity for Doomfist to run rampant without any consequences. But at the end of the day, Doomfist is still very vulnerable to CC, regardless of the buffs, so it's important to play around such abilities as much as you can. He deals a bit of damage, then backs away with Power Block. The enemy Tracer looks for a pulse while Doomfist is slowed during the block, but Sergeant, knowing this, gets the pick on the Tracer instead. It's very important for Doomfist to cancel abilities when it's necessary to remain somewhat unpredictable. Talk about a Uno reverse. With no cooldowns available, Sergeant tries to extend the fight with ult, but immediately gets slept. Just remember, sleep or stun equals death for Doom. Like before, take a frontline position when you want to charge your punch. From the enemy team's perspective, they are very likely to damage the tank on the front line in order to push them back and reclaim the lost space. Sergeant does exactly so and assassinates the backline as the enemy tank leaves his team. Sojourn is honestly just a tool for Doomfist to charge his punch up. Quick trivia question for everyone watching. Guess what happens when a Doomfist commits into the enemies without ultimate? The answer is in 3, 2, 1, ta-da! He dies! Time for round 2 with quick punch slam cancel rollout. Sergeant directly heads to point and contests and casts the summons enemies to point spell. Then he punishes the squishies that fall for the trap. Meanwhile, from Hajun-Ho's point of view, he waits for Sergeant to attract all the attention, then runs rampant, absolutely carrying the team. This Doomfist Tracer duo is just unstoppable right now. Looking at their gameplay, we can see why these two heroes got nerfed in the new patch. Today we've analyzed how to most effectively play Doom, and in an upcoming video, we'll be doing an in-depth analysis of Tracer through Hajun-Ho's gameplay. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This was Sapling from Crow Overwatch, signing off.